This is TWiT.
Salt Typhoon is the name that's been given to this group. For the past several months, there have been various news reports of Chinese state-sponsored attacks against this or that U.S. telecommunications company. I've seen them. I haven't mentioned them on the podcast because we've had so much else to talk about. And I don't know, it sort of didn't seem to have reached critical mass, but that changed. Last week, Ann Neuberger, the U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor, said that at least 8 U.S. telcos, and actually apparently a total of 80 overall, but 8 U.S. telcos have been hacked, and that the U.S. is now getting set to take some coordinated, definitive action. So I think we need to do a bit of catching up on the podcast. The best reporting I found on this was headlined, Chinese hack of global telecom providers is ongoing, officials warn. With the subhead, officials from the FBI and CISA say the major Chinese hack began late spring, and they're strongly urging Americans to use encrypted communications. Like, what? Okay, so the reporting says, last Tuesday, federal officials said that the federal government began investigating a major Chinese breach of global telecommunication systems last spring. And they further warned that the intrusions remain ongoing, and that it's likely larger in scale than previously understood. The hack was first announced publicly in October and has been attributed by U.S. agencies to a Chinese government-linked hacking group known as Salt Typhoon. The effort targeted dozens of telecom companies in the U.S. and globally to gain access to U.S. political leaders and national security data. Neither the timeline of the hacking effort nor the scope of the intrusion were previously disclosed. Jeff Green, Executive Assistant Director of Cybersecurity at CISA and a senior FBI official, said Tuesday that while agencies started cooperating on their investigations of Salt Typhoon's activities in early October, the effort was first detected in late spring and early summer. He also warned that the breach is ongoing and that there was much law enforcement still did not know. Green said, quote, "We cannot say with certainty that the adversary has been evicted." Oh, wow. "We're on top of tracking them down, but we cannot with confidence say that we know everything, nor would our partners." Green strongly urged Americans to, quote, "use your encrypted communications where you have it," unquote, adding that, quote, "we definitely need to do that." Kind of look at what it means long-term, how we secure our networks. Wow, yikes, that's definitive. And notice the irony of the government telling its citizens that they need to use their own encrypted communications apps wherever possible because the networks of the telecommunications providers are, well, turn out to be insecure. And there doesn't appear to be a lot that could be done about that. And we're not even sure we got rid of them or what they're doing or what's going on.
They're cockroaches. We can't get rid of them. They're in there permanently.
It's, of course, ironic, right? Because our governments have been chafing over their citizens' use of the same encrypted applications what the government is unable to penetrate.
There's even more irony because the Salt Typhoon people are taking advantage of wiretaps that were inserted by Kalia 20 years ago because law enforcement said they needed them. The irony is endless.
Yep. So maybe as many as 80 telecommunications companies and internet service providers, including AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile, are believed to have been infiltrated
80?
In the hack.
There are 80 of them in the U.S.?
80 globally. Yeah. Basically all of them, right? Because we don't want to miss anybody with our Kalia warrant. T-Mobile was the most recent one in the news. Anyway, earlier last Tuesday, CISA, the FBI, the NSA, and partner agencies in New Zealand, Australia, and Canada released a joint alert warning that Chinese hackers were targeting major global telecommunications providers. Officials declined to comment on specifics, but acknowledged that, quote, there were servers used in various countries to facilitate this activity by the Chinese, unquote. Interestingly, the UK did not sign on to the alert, making it the only one of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing group which was omitted. Green attributed this to each country having different considerations and timelines, unquote. Okay. A spokesperson for the UK's National Cybersecurity Centre said Tuesday that the agency supports our international partners issuing this advisory to help improve the collective resilience of telecommunications infrastructure, but at the same time didn't sign on to it. But, oh, yes, we're supportive. We're just not going to put our name on it. And he also said the UK has a separate approach to mitigating cyber risks to its telecom providers. Okay. Anyway, the officials from the FBI and CISA noted in their briefing that there were 3 groups of victims targeted in the hacks. The first group was an undisclosed number of victims, mostly in the United States capital region, meaning D.C. Yeah. According to the officials, who were impacted by stolen call records from telecom companies. The second group were a small number of political or government-linked individuals, all of whom have been notified by officials. So based on the records of this intrusion, they at least were able to identify the targets of these attacks, who had their private communications compromised, according to a senior FBI official who spoke anonymously as a condition of briefing the reporters. While the officials did not specify exactly how many officials were targeted, it was previously reported that the phones of President-elect Donald Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance were among those compromised, in both cases prior to the U.S. national election. In many cases, the voice and textual content of call connections and conversations were obtained by Chinese attackers. In other words, not just metadata.
That's interesting. Well, it's a wiretap. So
yes, it was wiretap. Yeah. In addition, the Chinese hackers also accessed and copied U.S. court orders, which the FBI officials said were attained through the, as you noted, Leo, Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement, CALEA statute program. This program allows law enforcement and intelligence agencies to submit court orders around intelligence collection from telecom providers. When pressed on whether hackers were able to assess court orders for intelligence collected under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, which allows U.S. intelligence agencies to collect data on foreign targets, the FBI official declined to answer directly, but acknowledged that the CALEA environment does include court orders for FISA investigations. The major hacking campaign has been an issue of increased concern for U.S. lawmakers in recent weeks, the Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Mark Warner describing it as, quote, the most serious breach in our history. Now, again, we installed the taps, so oops. I mean, this is isn't this the perfect analogy for why we don't want the government to have access to encrypted communications?
This is the whole proof.
They're not good enough at it.
No one is. Any backdoor will eventually be discovered.
Yep. Senator Mike Rounds, ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee's Cyber Subcommittee, said during a panel at last month's Halifax International Security Forum, quote, unless you are using a specialized app, meaning, our own encryption, any one of us and every one of us today is subject to the review by the Chinese Communist government of any cell phone conversation you have with anyone in America. Okay, this is Senator Mike Rounds with the Senate Armed Services Committee's Cyber Subcommittee saying, unless you use something else, that is, just don't talk on the phone, do something else. Unbelievable. Anyway, I think this news highlights the clear need for independent, third-party, end-to-end encrypted video, voice, and text messaging systems. We're being told that the conversational content, not just connection metadata, of anything carried by our international and national telecommunications carriers can no longer be considered to be secure from eavesdropping by advanced persistent threat actors who want to know what's being said.
Well, they can have my phone calls. I'm not saying anything.
Right. But, there are conversations which we don't want China to have.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, this news, which has now been officially recognized, weakens any argument against allowing users of public telecommunications systems from providing and using their own truly secure end-to-end encryption for their conversations and content. The analogy is to the internet, right? The internet is a similar public network, which is not itself secure. So to it, we've added a layer of authenticated TLS encryption to enable point-to-point, end-to-end communications security, HTTPS. And no one has any problem with that. So what's the difference? And what's the big deal?
I should point out a reporter at Forbes looking at the actual request by the FBI that people start using encryption. The request said use responsibly managed encryption, which is encryption that allows us to subpoena the clear text.
Because we have responsibly managed Telecom. And how's that working out?
So what they're saying is use encryption, but not too good. So what, we should all use Signal or whatever it is that you, Threema, whatever it is that you like. What would you use these days? Because you need to make phone calls. It has to have audio as well, right?
Yeah, I guess I would use Signal. If I had to have an end-to-end encrypted system that I trust. WhatsApp is using the Signal protocol, so it's the same as Signal.
If you trust Meta, I mean, I'm sure I fully trust Meta. But okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, certainly Signal doesn't have and it can't have any other agenda because their entire business model is.
They don't even have a business model, right? I mean, what is their business? There is no business model. It's just what a world, huh?
Yeah.
It's just you got to do what you suggested. Go out in the field, take off all your clothes, go out in the field, far away from any
get under a comforter with someone you know.
And if you want to say something private, bring them and
naked with, bring a space heater, a little portable,
Yeah, make sure it's not made in China though.
You don't want an internet connected space heater.
No,
it is the world we live in. At least
there is no privacy.
No.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte. I hope you've enjoyed this little snippet from Security Now. If you want the whole show, you can get it at our website, twit.tv/SN. Of course, you can subscribe to Security Now on your favorite podcast, or just click one of the links below.